Welcome to the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel, and on today's episode, I'm speaking with Matthew Schwab, a 27-year-old North Carolina native who's working towards the goal of living independently. Matthew graduated from high school in June 2017 with an occupational course of study diploma, and in May 2019, he completed Project Search, an internship-based educational program at Wake Technical Community College. In addition to being an actor and public speaker, Matthew works as a host at Town Hall Grill in Chapel Hill. Matthew also serves on the board of directors for Gigi's Playhouse Raleigh, a Down Syndrome Achievement Center, and First in Families of North Carolina. Matthew loves doing things with his family and friends and spending time with his fiancée. He's passionate about raising awareness about Down syndrome and the entire community of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDDs. In 2019, he gave a TEDx talk about the importance of employing those with IDD. Matthew hopes to help change the way the world sees Down syndrome. Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
I am so excited to learn about your life and all of the really cool things that you do these days. So to start out, what was your childhood like for you growing up with Down syndrome?
It felt normal to me because I did not pay attention to my diagnosis. The only thing is, when I was younger, that I did notice was that school was harder than my brothers. I mean, harder for me. And I had all these therapies. At the time, I had all kinds of therapies from occupational therapy, feeding therapy, and physical therapy and hippotherapy through therapeutic horseback riding. And I got to go to special events because at that time, just when I was born, my mom, Michelle Schwab, and my fiance's mom, Maria Romano, and other moms started the North Carolina Down Syndrome Alliance, which was then the Triangle Down Syndrome Network. And we all started Gigi's Playhouse Raleigh in June of 2016.
Wow. So you've been very busy your whole life between school and when you were younger, all of the different therapies and starting your Down syndrome advocacy with your mom and your fiance's mom pretty early on. So you've always been very active in the community.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you do many things now as an adult, but one of the things, and I think the thing that helped me find you, is that you are a public speaker. You've given a TEDx talk and you speak pretty regularly about Down syndrome advocacy and the importance of employing people with Down syndrome. How did you first realize that you enjoyed public speaking?
Oh, so it's kind of a funny story because in middle school we had to do those science presentations,
Yeah.
and I trust mine on Down syndrome because I had a basic knowledge of what Down syndrome was at the time, but it wasn't until years later in 2014 for World Down Syndrome Day, and I loved it. It was just a blast, which kind of feeds into the next thing, which is the speaking journey.
Mhm. So you discovered in middle school that, hey, I really like public speaking. So how did you decide, yeah, I want to do more of this? How did you become a public speaker and advocate for people with Down syndrome?
Well, so officially, it kind of goes as far as 4 years after the first public speaking engagement. In 2018, when my mom, Michelle Schwab, pitched to me the idea of going about entrepreneurially, creating a business around it. And it was then that my mom, Michelle, and I were creating the business, Matthew Schwab Speaks, because there was an event with the North Carolina Down Syndrome Alliance. I think at that time it was still Triangle Down Syndrome Network. Their annual body walk in October of 2019. So in anticipation for that, we were creating the business. And when that body walk came around, which was October of 2019, that's when I started officially Matthew Schwab Speaks. My TEDx talk happened just a couple months after the establishment of my business. And then I started to get national inquiries shortly after my TED Talk,
Wow.
but it was kind of poor timing because it was during COVID.
Oh,
So the so it ended up being a lot being virtual speaking engagements, and two of them were kind of national with the initial plan of being there in person, but now virtual because of COVID. I spoke to U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Coca-Cola. Yes,
wow.
and then when my business was slowly picking up because due to the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, I was starting to get a lot more regular speaking engagements. That's when I started to speak nationally,
Hmm.
officially.
Wow.
And I've flown all over the country. Well, not all 50 states, but all over from different coasts, like from the South Coast, East, Northeastern coast, like New Orleans, New Hampshire, Texas, and a lot of them I already visited before in my young age
Wow.
with family, but a good handful of them I have not been to before my business.
Hmm.
And I just love the experience of going to places that I never been before.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so you live in North Carolina now, so you've gotten to travel all over the United States. That's awesome. And get to see new places. That sounds like fun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so what are your favorite topics to speak about?
Well, I love to talk about myself, and with my business, I'm able to speak about any topic that they want me to speak about. But the highest in demand is the importance of employment for individuals with Down syndrome and the importance of inclusivity. And I integrate that with my life as one of the examples of many lives that would come.
You have your public speaking business. You spend a lot of time public speaking, but you do a lot of other things as well. So, what other things do you like to do when you're not giving speeches?
With my business, technically, so I don't just do speaking engagements. I'm able to do all forms of advocacy and all forms of spreading my message. I have t-shirts on my website for sale. And I also done two podcast things, one audio version and one video version, which is Matthew Schwab Listens, which you can visit on my website where I interviewed cool people that are doing great things in community that I've known. And also through my business, Matthew Schwab Speaks, I'm not just booked for all speaking engagements. I am also can be booked for exhibitor booths. Like where I just out there have my own table handing out my business cards. That's the more awareness aspect of my business, and I have a strong social media presence. My strongest social media is Instagram, over 30,000 followers.
Wow.
But outside of my business, I love watching TV,
Hmm.
doing stuff on my computer. I love doing sports. Like I just now in Special Olympics for Orange County in Chapel Hill, which is I love that. So far this season, I've done a whole season long of tennis, whole season long of basketball, one-off pickleball clinics, and a season long pickleball clinic.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I did Special Olympics before in with Wood County, when I did equestrian horseback riding. I love walking, and I love spending time with family and friends, and family including my fiance and her family. Volunteering with my fiance, Lucia. I love volunteering and I love acting.
Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw on your Instagram that you and Lucia have been doing a lot of ballroom dancing lately. How did you two get interested in that?
And so it's just by happy mistake
Oh.
on my end because Lucia has been wanting to do Dancing with the Stars for years, ever since we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And I said, well, I'm not so sure about that on my end. And then something clicked inside my head like, oh, I could do it. And then we found Fred's Dare Dance Studio franchise, and they have a location which is very convenient for us.
Mhm. That's awesome.
We've been doing it for 4 years and counting.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool. And I wanted to ask you about your job. We, mentioned it in your bio, and I know you talk about how important it is for people with Down syndrome to have opportunities to have jobs. Can you tell me a little bit about your current job and what you like about it?
Yes. So aside from my business, I have technically three jobs,
Wow.
including my volunteering. So I'll start with my paid,
Mhm.
my actual job,
Yeah.
in Town Hall Grill, which is conveniently located in Southern Village in Chapel Hill.
Mhm.
And I'm a host. I've been doing the same job in the same industry, food service, for ever since I started my very first job at Chick-fil-A when I was 16 years old.
Wow. And that's great that it's convenient and near where you live, and it sounds like a great match for your skills. You've been doing it for so long. You also mentioned that you like to do acting, which is just amazing. I've seen your posts that you've been in a couple of TV movies, things like that. How did you get into acting?
Well, so it actually goes as far back when I was young because I'm more established in the other end of the spectrum of acting, the theater, community theater, high school theater. I've done that ever since I was little, and I loved it. And and then in high school, I had opportunity to tech for some productions. Like I did Wizard of Oz was my upbringing to acting, and then I did that as an usher, handed out the playbills freshman year, and then sophomore year was Peter Pan, and I was on props crew. Then junior year was James and Giant Peach. I was on costumes crew for that, and my senior year, I'm class of 2017 from Holly Springs High School. I did Phantom of the Opera my senior year on props crew, and
Wow.
I loved teching, and I still love teching, but I'm not actively done teching. And then my mom kind of forcefully advised me for professional acting, so I just had to thank my mom for that. I'm in that I'm new in that journey. I've been in that journey for like maybe about a year and a half now,
Wow.
and it's great. I love the journey. I did TurboTax, my first gig for their March Madness commercial
Oh.
as an extra, and I did one for Ameriprise Financial, which was after my movie, which is Horsegirls, which is actually coming out June 9th
Wow.
of this year. It's premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York City.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow. And is Horse Girls your first movie?
Yes, first movie, but officially second gig because it was the first commercial, and then the movie, and then the next commercial.
Ah, I got it. Okay. Wow. That's really awesome. I'm glad it's so much fun and so enjoyable for you. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm very excited for your movie.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, I want to get back to your work as an advocate for people with Down syndrome and the types of things you talk about. What are some of the biggest stereotypes about people with Down syndrome that you want to challenge?
There are a lot of misconceptions. And some of them is that people with Down syndrome can't work, which kind of feeds into the 80-20, which is 80% of individuals with a disability are unemployed. And of the 20% that are employed, most of that 20% are underemployed. And I want to directly challenge that. And people with disabilities and Down syndrome can't drive. Well, we can actually drive because my fiance, Lucia, like a select few people with Down syndrome, my fiance has a full license, which is awesome. And another misconception is people with disabilities can't get married, which obviously is not true because you've seen all those stuff on like the TV show Born This Way and on YouTube. And Lucia and I have been engaged for just over barely over a year and a half, and we are planning to get married
Mhm.
next year. We have not done anything with the planning process yet.
Mhm.
We are more focused on our independent living together.
Yeah, that's great. And I've seen on your Instagram that you and Lucia like cooking together and, just starting to build your life together. And that's really awesome. And it's so great to see you as examples and really showing that people with Down syndrome don't automatically have limits to their life. It's really up to each individual and what their goals are and what kind of supports they can get to achieve what they want in their lives.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, Matthew, it's been really great talking with you. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your public speaking, your acting, like all of the cool things that you do?
There's multiple ways to contact me. Officially through my business, Matthew Schwab Speaks. My website is Matthew, with the two T's, Matthew Schwab, SCHWAB, Speaks, SPEAKS.com. And from there, you'll see all my social media platforms. You can follow me on my social media platforms, either Facebook or Instagram. You can find the Matthew Schwab Listens YouTube playlist on the website as well, along with the t-shirts and a way to contact me, my business, and we'll get to you in one business day. So just contact my business if you want to book me for exhibitor booths or speaking engagements, or if you have a Matthew Schwab Speaks business card already, you can either do it yourself or you can pass it along to someone else that may want me. Either way, your help is appreciated. And so that's how you can reach out to me. And my official business email address, either through the website or directly through info.matthewschwabspeaks.com.
Okay, perfect. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes description of this show so people can click on it and go right there from here when they're listening or watching. So that's awesome. Yeah, Matthew, it's great talking with you. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know or anything that they can help or support you with?
Oh, so I have advice, which is be strong, be patient, work hard, and tear down old narratives, like narratives that I was subject to. I was born in like late 97, so the old narratives, tear them down and make your own narrative, make your own story. Because your story is unwritten. It is your job to write your own story. It's harder, I admit it's harder to write your own story if you or a loved one, a child, or a relative who has a disability, it's harder to write your own story. But cherish every moment, no matter how big or how small, and make your own story. And hopefully you can share your own story any way you want, locally, nationally, or internationally.
Wow, that's really powerful. Yeah, thank you, Matthew, for those words. That's really important advice that anyone can take, and it's something that we often forget. But yeah, our stories are powerful, and thank you so much for sharing your story on my show and all around the nation as a speaker, and just being such a great example in the community and a role model for people with Down syndrome and really everyone. So yeah, thanks, Matthew. It was great talking with you today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.